Hola, welcome into Inside the Green Room with Danny Verte. Mi nombre es Harrison Sanford. Yo tengo un camisa verde. I have a green shirt. I still haven't figured out to wear a green shirt, but we're getting there, y'all. I haven't done my Duolingo for the day.
You do know green verde is with a D, not a T, so you can
verde.
Yeah, you go. That's better. It's still very English, but yeah.
Greece is gray, verde is green, azul is blue, naranja is orange. I don't know if that's
naranja.
But naranja. Rojo is red. What else am I missing? Blanco is white. Yeah, we making some progress, Danny. We making some progress. All right, let's get into what we want to discuss here today on Inside the Green Room. Before we do that, a little bit of a update where you can catch us next. Thursday night, Danny will be doing the True TV live betcast of the game going down on TNT. So while the game is going down, you could join him. And I believe Chandler Parsons, Danny?
Yeah, no, we got Adam Lefkoe, Timmy Doyle, Long Island's finest.
Word.
Yep.
There we go.
Island's finest. Yes, sir.
Tim Doyle, Danny Green, and Adam Lefkoe doing the betcast on True TV tonight while the games are going down on TNT. So that would be Celtics versus Phoenix Suns, and that'll also be the Oklahoma City Thunder versus the Dallas Mavericks. Another programming update on where you can catch us. I will be on ESPN Radio this Sunday night. Not local, the national airwaves. So you'll be able to check in with me as we look at the March Madness brackets. Yes, it's that time of the year. The brackets come out around Sunday, around 6 o'clock or so. I'll be on the air 9 p.m. to midnight, breaking down the brackets and giving you who I think might make it to the Final Four. There'll be a number of interviews with a number of coaches and players as well embedded into that show. So make sure you guys tune into all that. But for now, you're locked in with us here. And speaking of college, it's conference tournament time, Danny, and you have a wealth of experience playing in conference tournaments. I see them as a gift, but I also see them as a curse. Yes, if you win
100%.
the Big 12 conference tournament, you win the ACC tournament, you win the SEC tournament, Big East tournament, you have a chance of getting a number one seed. If you get the number one seed, you might be able to have more fans in the arena cheering you on in an Elite 8 game, in a Sweet 16 game, where having some motivational factors from your fans could definitely help you in certain instances, particularly if you're close, if that regional is close to where you're playing. With that being said, though, Danny, there is a negative. You played obviously you've played a multitude of NBA games. Playing back to back is not easy. Playing back to back to back to back potentially is even more difficult, and particularly when this tournament doesn't make you the NCAA champion. What are your thoughts on conference tournament structuring, the benefits and the negatives of playing for the rights to be the champion in your conference?
The only benefits, like you said, is just getting a higher seed and home court advantage, kind of, which is not really home court, but you get put in a bracket that's closer to where your home base is, where you have your fans. Outside of that, for college players, they're not used to playing back-to-backs. They play maybe 2 games a week, maybe 3 at most. So playing back-to-backs or back-to-back-to-backs is not beneficial at all. But it's a lot of fun for the fans. We get a chance to watch the game, see them. It's March Madness time. We get Selection Sunday. I think they could, spread it out to a little bit. Obviously, it affect classing schedule, but they could find a way to make it a little more efficient for the players and the guys, and I guess the performances for the players to be able to be rested for each game. But like I said, it's a gift and a curse. You're tired at that point. You want to get higher seeds, but you want to be fresh for the tournament, the one that really matters. So I got a chance to watch some of the games last night. It was fun to watch. Boston College put a pretty good beating on Clemson. NC State got another win. We're not a big fan of either one of those teams, but I'm excited to see my boys, see what they do. I said, I told you before last week what we spoke on. I don't mind them not winning this tournament and being fresh for the NCAA tournament, and losing in the semifinals, which is fine with me. But yeah, fun time for the fans. March Madness, we're kickstarting the month. It's going to be a lot of games, a lot of basketball. Brackets busted, and somebody trying to win a lot of money trying to get the perfect bracket, which doesn't happen ever really.
No, never happens. With that being said, yeah, I think you're totally right. If they can find a way to just space this out, I don't think And we haven't even talked about the potential injury concerns that could happen from playing the back-to-back. So I think it's definitely in all the conference's interest to find a way to space this out better. If March Madness has to be pushed back a week so that the games are a little bit more conducive to good health, then so be it. I just don't see the purpose of it. But yes, you're still right. It is definitely a fun watch for sure. With that being said, let's get over to the pros now. The National Basketball Association. And what we saw Wednesday night was the Sacramento Kings getting a win over the Los Angeles Lakers. So much so that Twitter noticed that LeBron James went to Instagram and his Instagram story after the game as he was riding down some highway blasting Silk. Maybe just going through the motions after another Lakers loss. But more importantly, or something more that I even wanted to point out, the win last night for the Sacramento Kings, which featured another stupendous performance from Domantas Sabonis. Sabonis now is 10-0 versus Anthony Davis. The Sacramento Kings now the 6th seed in the Western Conference. And Danny, when we looked at the Western Conference in general, when we talked about All-Stars, Domantas Sabonis got a lot of recognition, but ultimately did not become an All-Star, and he probably was the biggest snub. What is it about him that makes him so good, and what difficulty does he possess that has made it hard for Anthony Davis to get a win over him in his career?
You know, those Euros, man, they give a lot of people trouble, not just Anthony Davis, but they're so fundamental and crafty. Sabonis, Jokic, Nurkic, all those guys know how to use their body very well and take away Anthony Davis's space to be able to contest or block shots as much. And they're big bodies, so it's a tough matchup for Anthony Davis. Honestly, realistically, AD was like a guard mostly of his career. He just ended up being very tall, so he's used to playing on the perimeter and guarding guards. He had to gain some weight later to guard bigs, but even with that weight, he's still not used to like banging with those guys. He used to just contesting, blocking shots. Being weak side, he's not used to playing the 5. He's more of a 4. I guess his style of play. But when playing against those 5s, it's tough. And those guys are just good. They're mismatches for anybody. They're tough matchups for not just Anthony Davis. There's, Sabonis is catching Kevin Love with double doubles. He's getting triple doubles all the time. There's not many people stopping him. Jokic, these guys are not people that anybody's stopping. Not just Anthony Davis, but they're very crafty, fundamental, and smart. So that's why they're tough to guard.
Yeah, for sure. Sabonis has definitely been a handful. I'm curious to see how it kind of maps out for them in terms of the seeding. We could have a situation where, as it currently stands, the Sacramento Kings would take on the Minnesota Timberwolves in the first round. And I find that one to be a very fun matchup because you got all offense versus majority defense featuring a guy by the name of Anthony Edwards. And I don't think there's anybody on that Sacramento Kings roster that can guard Anthony Edwards. Speaking of which, that will be our big discussion when we come back from break. Anthony Edwards, is he the new star in the NBA? We'll break it down after the break. Stay right here. Back with Inside the Green Room, Harrison Sanford, Danny Green. You guys already know the vibes. Before we get into the Anthony Edwards discussion, quick reminder, if you are watching this podcast on YouTube, you can get it on any podcast app that you use. And if you're listening to this podcast, you can watch us on YouTube, Instagram, Inside Green Room, Twitter, Green Room Inside. That's all you need to know. Let's get back to the show. Now, Danny, Anthony Edwards, dog.
Yeah.
I think I'm starting to have my new favorite player in the NBA. Yeah. Because this guy on the court offensively can shoot the ball all 3 levels, can obviously rise up and dunk on anybody and not scared to dunk either. He talks trash to other opponents. Love it. And when he gets in front of the microphone, he also is very he's eloquent in his own way, but his personality is shining. If he was in New York, if he was in LA, if he was in Chicago, if he was in Boston, this guy would be all over anything the NBA is pushing. But he's in Minnesota, so it's a little bit different to promote him. Nonetheless, the NBA has a superstar on his hands. And I believe, Danny, when this playoff is over, whenever they get eliminated, I don't think they make it to the NBA Finals, but whenever they get eliminated, we are finally going to call Anthony Edwards not just a star, a superstar, And I think unless the Boston Celtics, led by Jason Tatum, win the NBA Finals, I think we're going to say Anthony Edwards is the next face of the league. Your thoughts?
Definitely. He's definitely next up. And he is a star, superstar. I think with
Now, I
that
don't know
level,
about superstar yet, but
yeah,
star.
I'm saying he's the lower tier superstar. He's above star, lower tier. So he can bump up that superstardom by his playoff performance. Obviously, he had some tough times last year. Everybody's wanting to see how he matures, how he grows from that. And I think he's going to take that step. And he just needs to get a healthy team. He needs Rudy Gobert. He needs Cat back. He needs those guys on their P's and Q's in order for them to get at least the first round win, who that matchup may be. It could be the Lakers. It could be, who you don't know. It could be Sacramento for all we know. Just some games left. Teams could drop. Some team could sneak up. It could be Golden State. So in order for them to win and for him to get the help he needs, obviously he's going to play at his level and get the recognition he deserves. He's got to have a hell of a playoffs and also win a series or two. But yeah, he's definitely showing the league, showing everybody else around him why he belongs in that category and to be the next up as face of the league. Obviously, you got Luka. We had Zion. Zion still had his health issues, but he's been healthy this year. Jason Tatum, see what they do in Boston. But he has very much a very good case and argument for being that next up guy.
Yeah, I mean, Danny, you've played with LeBron and you've played with Tim Duncan, right? Two guys who could have, when you played with them, could have made the argument that they're the best player in the league, right? But I think you've noticed by being with both of those guys, there's a reason why LeBron James was seen as the face of the league. And there was a reason why, even though Tim Duncan was as great as he was never seen as the face of the league. It's the ability, not on the court. It's also the ability in front of a microphone. And I go back to earlier
the marketability,
the personality. Yeah. I go back to earlier this week, Tuesday, after beating the Los Angeles Clippers. He was speaking with a reporter post game, and he said, and the question was along the lines, what did you see out there? XYZ, XYZ. And he said, a whole bunch of mismatches. That is OD. Like, that is something that only a handful of players
can say.
Well, first of all, only 20 or so players probably even think that, right?
Yeah.
Probably only 20 or so players only think that. And then there's only maybe 5 that would actually say that. And I think that's the difference.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that he also has a mix of it. Like, there's times where he expresses his, I'm going to say, cockiness or arrogance, but like he expresses himself and shows that he's that guy. And there's times he's very humble. He's great at giving credit to his teammates. He also earlier on gave credit to Luka Garza for his slow step Euro. I don't know if you've seen that or not.
I've seen
but
that.
He gives a lot of credit to his teammates. He gives a lot of credit to people around him. He's at humble times, but then he ain't scared to show you and tell you, I'm that. Especially on the court to other guys, he'll talk trash to him. And very few in the media. But I said I like how he mixes it up. But for him to say at this young age and to be able to not only execute it, but have everyone else around him believe it, because nobody's questioning it. There's certain guys that could say a lot of things and people be like, what the hell is this guy talking about? Is he on drugs? Why is he talking? He's not the guy. And when he says it, people believe it, and people are like, you know what? There ain't nobody really stopping him out there. So there probably is a bunch of mismatches on the floor for him.
Yeah. What is it when you look at his game as somebody who prided himself on defense? When you look at his game, what makes him so difficult to guard out there?
He actually cares. He has most guys most of them have the athleticism to do it. He's athletic enough. He can move his feet. He's quick. He has a strong body, strong enough to uphold some people. A lot of superstars are able to do it. It's hard to do both sides. Like, the basketball game is a long game. It's a long season. You kind of got to, as you're a superstar and you're playing 40 plus minutes, you got to have to pace yourself, pick and choose your moments. When you're younger, you can kind of do more. But as you get older, it's like, all right, I can't give everything on this end of the floor because then I can't help the team on offense. He's young enough and athletic enough. He can condition himself enough to be able to upkeep that. It'll be impressive to be able to give that much on that end of the floor and offensively carry the team. It's hard to do. There's not many guys I've seen do it, and I've only got a chance to play with a few of them. Kawhi being one of them. Obviously, Bron was very good. AD was very good. Timmy was another one, but Timmy was toward the end of his prime when I had him. So, yeah. And, it's Joel could be one of those guys too, but it's tough. As a big man, it's tough to 7-footer. You exert so much energy, your footwork, coordination, trying to score, get a basket, and protect the rim. to get out on screen, switch, call, talk, do all those things. It's a lot of mental, emotional, physical wearing on you to try to carry that throughout an 82 game season, let alone with the playoffs and the preseason added too. It's a lot of games.
Obviously, for Anthony Edwards to get to that star level, right? They got to play well in the playoffs. That's when really stars are made. Yeah, we love a good regular season game, but those are few and far in between to really find that really captivate us like a playoff game can. And so when they get down to the playoffs, I want to flash back to last year. We have to remember, one, they might have given the Denver Nuggets the best challenge they had all last year in the playoffs. Yes, it was only a 5-game series. But Anthony Edwards balled out. He was averaging 30 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. And they went into that playoff series without 2 pivotal players in their rotation. Jaden McDaniels got hurt. I believe it was punching a wall or something along those lines.
Yeah.
After the play-in game, the loss to the Lakers. And then Naz Reid also had a broken wrist on a dunk attempt that didn't allow him to play. So even without that, the games were competitive. When I look at them now, I say if they're fully healthy, if Karl-Anthony Towns can come back, they're going to be able to challenge anybody because of that defense and because of Anthony Edwards in general. What's interesting, though, Danny, recently, your former teammate, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, was on a podcast with Chris Haynes, and he told Chris Haynes that the biggest threat to the Denver Nuggets' chances of repeating is not the Minnesota Timberwolves, which I don't agree. I think the Timberwolves are their biggest challenge. He said it would be the Phoenix Suns, with as long as they're healthy, with KD, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker. Do you agree that the Phoenix Suns are a better challenge to the Denver Nuggets than Anthony Edwards' Minnesota Timberwolves?
No, I'd have to disagree with that one. I'm with you on that, H. I don't see them having the defense to be able to limit Denver or stop Jokic. Nurkic is very good, though, and he knows Jokic pretty well. They played together at a short stint. But I think with the 2 bigs in Minnesota gives him a harder time. Phoenix is probably the only team that could probably outscore them. They have enough scoring to do so. I don't know if they'll do it for a 7-game series, but when it comes to defensively stopping them, I think Minnesota has the better matchup of slowing down Jokic and company. So yeah, they're both very good teams, but I agree with you. I think Minnesota is the team that will give them the toughest matchup because there's no other team in the league that has the 2 bigs like they have. If they have Cat healthy and Rudy healthy, it's going to be interesting to see how Jokic kind of maneuvers around that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you could have situations where where Karl-Anthony Towns is potentially guarding Jokic and Rudy Gobert is the help defender staying on Aaron Gordon, but not having to stretch out to the 3-point line because obviously Aaron Gordon's not a 3-point shooter. There's a lot of things that Chris Finch can do in that Timberwolves matchup that would definitely give him a good chance at guarding what the Denver Nuggets do. And you could put a guy like Jaden McDaniels or Anthony Edwards on Jamal Murray. They have a very good chance. Don't sleep on this Timberwolves team just because of them kind of falling a little bit below where they were with Karl-Anthony Towns there. If Cat is back, they are going to be a problem. Getting back to Anthony Edwards, though, we talked about his abilities on the court. We talked about his abilities on the microphone. What's next, Danny? Because at 22 years old, there's levels for him to go from his game, his actual game on the court. Where do you see the next level of improvement?
Well, I think he's got to continue to do what he's been doing, but they got to continue to win. And if they don't win, I can see it'd be a lot of pressure on that organization or him to go elsewhere. So he's got to find a way to not only say the next step for him is being a leader. He's the young guy right now, but in the next 2 or 3 years, he's going to become the veteran. He's going to have to build his team around him, who he wants around him, and make decisions. He's got Mike Conley now, one of the vets there. Slow-Mo is there. Rudy, Cat, those guys are older than him. But said eventually he's going to be – he is the guy now, but he's just a younger guy. And those guys are going to be older. Some of them might not be there. Some of them be old, out the league or done playing. He's going to be the next, he's leader of that team and be able to form who he wants, what pieces around him make sense for him to be successful. Because they're going to give him whatever he wants. And if he does it the right way and they can win, and they can keep him. If they don't, he's not going to stay in that Minnesota market for too long. Yeah,
they definitely got to, whatever you can do to hold on to him, you got to do him. But that's going to make it very interesting because obviously, Danny, we know going back to last summer, the new CBA kicked in and that Karl-Anthony Towns contract combined with having the Rudy Gobert contract on top of Anthony Edwards' new his rookie max extension coming in, you're looking at 3 max players, and that is very unsustainable to have in this NBA unless you're really willing to pay the taxes and if you already have a ready-made roster. A lot is riding on the Minnesota Timberwolves postseason, not just the construction of their roster, but Anthony Edwards' superstardom as well. So excited to see how it all trickles out and very much looking forward to what happens during this weekend of the NBA. We'll be back on Tuesday, breaking it down like we usually do inside the green room. Danny, any last words?
Read, rate, subscribe, review. You already know what to do.